There are so many exciting books coming out in 2026, and I made a list of about 15 to 20 of the new releases that I am most excited for. Obviously, there are a lot more new releases than what I'm going to cover in this video, but these are the ones that are on the top of my list that I'm most looking forward to. I'm really into fantasy, dystopian, romance, so pretty much all of the books on this list fall into one or more of those genres. A lot of the new releases that I'm excited for are also continuations of series that I'm already in the middle of, or series that I have been wanting to start. I'm gonna go through all of the new releases in the order that they're going to be released. So without further ado, let's get into the first book. Starting in February, Throne of Nightmares by Carrie Maniscalco. It's her third book in the Prince of Sin series, but it is a standalone, interconnected standalone. So this is a fantasy romance. It follows different princes, each of which is based on a different sin. So this new release is based on sloth, which is essentially laziness. So this Prince Sloth, he has an enchanted library and basically never wants to leave it. And it is a romance between him and a woman who is a librarian. In this book, they're gonna go on a dark quest where they're transported together through a portal into these books that they love, but there's dark magic, so they're trying to survive in these worlds. There's also a lot of spice in these books. The first book followed Envy. The second one was Gluttony. I don't know if she's gonna do 7 books and go through all 7 of the deadly sins, but regardless, each of them can stand on their own. They follow different characters. I personally haven't actually read any of the books in this series yet. I own the first one. I just recently got it, but have not read it yet. So I am excited for another one in the series to come out because it sounds so interesting to me. Another one in February, And Now Back to You by B.K. Borson comes out February 24th. This is the second book in the Heartstrings series. The first one was First Time Caller. They are interconnected standalones, so following different characters. This is a romance book. It is opposites attract, workplace rivals. These two are meteorologists and they're forced to work together even though they don't get along. And along the way, they become friends and then lovers. It sounds really cute. The cover's really pretty. B.K. Borson also just released a new book, Good Spirits, and I've been seeing that everywhere, seeing her name everywhere. So very exciting that she has another book coming so soon at the start of 2026. Moving on to March. There are a lot of new releases that I'm looking forward to in March. I feel like so many books that have been announced already are coming out in the spring or the start of the summer, which makes sense because the ones near the end of the year, oftentimes they'll announce those later. But first up in March, on March 3rd, we have Across the Vanishing Sky by Catherine Cowles. I read Secret Haven by this author. That was my first book that I read by her this year, and I gave that one 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. She writes a mix of romance and suspense, and it's such a fun mix of genres. So Across the Vanishing Sky will be along the same wavelength, mix of romance and suspense, but it is the first book in a new series. All of her books are interconnected standalones, but I just absolutely love her writing. I thought it was so cool that I was reading a romance book and it turned into a murder mystery. I don't read a lot of suspense or thriller, so I had a lot of fun with that. I'm really looking forward to this new release. If you like romance and you're into Criminal Minds, then you would absolutely love her books. Another one on March 3rd, No Matter What by Cara Stone. I have not read a book by her, but I have several that I own and am interested in reading. I love the premises of her books. I've heard so many good things. She's written Ready or Not, Promise Me Sunshine. Both books I've been really wanting to get to. This is a standalone romance. It is a marriage in crisis, second chance romance. The couple has been separated and now the woman is starting to take these figure drawing art classes, and her husband, who they're still together but they're kind of on the verge of divorce, but he ends up being a nude model for her figure art drawing class, and so they start kind of rekindling their love, which sounds like a really fun concept, so I'm excited for this one. Next, on March 24th, Beneath by Ariel Sullivan. This is a prequel to Conform, which is her new release. It just came out in the last few months. It's a dystopian romance, and this prequel does follow different characters but kind of gives more backstory. On March 31st, Game On by Nevessa Allen comes out. This is the third book in the Into Darkness series, which is all interconnected standalones. They are dark romance. The first book in the series was Lights Out. We're following morally gray characters. This one is enemies to lovers. It is an age gap romance. She owns a tattoo parlor and he is somehow trying to get back at his dad and get revenge, and somehow using her to do that. Also on March 31st, The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez comes out. This is the sequel to Say You'll Remember Me. So these characters are in that book, but it is an interconnected standalone. A lot of these romance books are. So it can be read on its own without reading her prior books. You'll just kind of get Easter eggs of mentions of the other characters if you do read them in order. I'm very curious about the premise of this one because I feel like normally I'd be kind of cautious and not sure if I'd like it, because it is a romance with her boyfriend's best friend. So I'm really curious how Abby Jimenez is going to handle that, because I'm not a fan of any sort of cheating in books, physically or emotionally. And in this book, the boyfriend's best friend is in love with the girl, but he's staying away. He's not gonna make a move. He doesn't want to be that guy that's breaking up their relationship. From what I've seen of reviews for people who have already read this book early, I haven't seen anything negative. Everyone said that she handled the situation with grace in writing this, that there's difficult topics, but she handled it really well. So I feel like I'm cautiously hopeful that I'll like it. And Abby Jimenez is so popular. I feel like everyone's gonna be reading this book, and I'm gonna be so curious about the hype. So I will be reading this book. I'm just a little bit unsure if I'll love it, but I hope I do. In April, on April 7th, we have Rights of the Starling by Devney Perry. This is the sequel to Shield of Sparrows, which was a new release this year. It is romantasy, enemies to lovers, slow burn, arranged marriage. This one was so popular this year. I own it but have not gotten to it yet. But the fact that the next one's coming out in 2026 is good motivation for me to read the first one. There are several on April 7th. So also on April 7th is Unbound by Peyton Corinne. This is a hockey romance. He is the goalie. There's a then and now timeline because it is a second chance romance, and they were each other's first loves, broke each other's hearts, and the guy doesn't know what happened, what went wrong. He struggles with OCD and anxiety, and she struggles with a lot of past trauma. So I think this book is going to be very emotional, touch on a lot of sensitive topics, and I'm just so excited to read it. It is the third book in the Undone series, but again, they're interconnected standalones, so be read on its own. I also just think the cover of this book is so beautiful. It does not match the previous two books in the series, but I absolutely love this cover. I think it's gorgeous. Another book releasing on April 7th, The Escape Game by Marissa Meyer and Tamara Moss. This is young adult mystery thriller. It takes place on the set of a game show that is escape room themed. So these contestants are trying to get out of these escape rooms, but someone actually died on set. So it turns into this murder mystery, trying to figure out what happened. I think it's so interesting that this book is co-written. That's so cool. Marissa Meyer is the one who wrote the Lunar Chronicles, so that's the book Cinder and all the other books in that series. I read those when I was way younger, like a decade ago, so that'll be really fun to read another book by her this year. April 14th, we have The Thorn Queen by Sasha Payton Smith. This is the sequel to The Rose Bargain, which I read this year and really liked. I think I gave it a 3.5 stars, but it really picked up at the end and left off on a big cliffhanger, a huge reveal. So I'm so excited to be finding out what happens in the next book and so curious to see where the story is going to go from here. It is romantasy and it's kind of like a mix of Bridgerton and The Selection. There's also fae. There's this dark magic, but it's set in England in the 1800s. And in the first book, there's this competition to marry a prince, and the prince is a fae. There ends up being a love triangle. It was really cool. Love the concept. So yeah, I'm absolutely gonna read this one in 2026. Moving on to May. On May 5th, we have Our Perfect Storm by Carly Fortune. This is a standalone romance book. It is best friends to lovers. The girl got dumped by her fiance on their wedding weekend, and she ends up going with her guy best friend on what was supposed to be her honeymoon. So that sounds really cute. Obviously that she's gonna be pretty heartbroken, so I'm curious how that's gonna play out. I read One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune this year. Really liked that one. I also read Every Summer After and loved that one. That one was 5 stars for me. I think One Golden Summer I might have given 3.5 stars. I really liked it, just personally not as much, although I know so many people love that one even more. But I've been wanting to read a couple of her other books too, so I'm really looking forward to her new release. Also on May 5th, we have Fury Bound by Sable Sorensen. This is the sequel to Dire Bound, which is a romantasy wolf book. I have not read the first one yet. Again, I own it. I've been wanting to read it, and this is just good motivation to get to it with the next book coming out soon. May 12th is Seek the Traitor's Son by Veronica Roth, who is the author of the Divergent series. Absolutely loved that as a kid. I feel like everyone did. This is the first book in what's going to be a duology, and it sounds so good. It is dystopian, fantasy, romance, has a lot of sci-fi elements. I feel like it's a good mix. I love sci-fi and was so intrigued reading about this book. It takes place on a futuristic planet. There's a space station that they live on, and what's called the fever ended up killing a lot of people, but the people that it didn't kill, it ended up giving special powers to. And so people are torn between viewing the fever as a curse or worshiping the fever like it's a god. So you have this complex situation going on with that. You have these magical powers. You've got this futuristic society. I'm so excited. So that's kind of the first half of the year. There's so many new releases that we know about coming out then. As we move on to the second half, there's not quite as many. Still a few that I'm very much looking forward to, but a lot of new releases for the second half of the year we'll hear more about later. In July, on July 7th, we have The Exquisite Torment of Loving Your Enemy by Bridget Knightley. This is the sequel to The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy, which is a duology, so this will be the conclusion of that series. It is a romantasy, enemies to lovers. The girl is a healer and the guy is an assassin, and this one is based on Dramini fan fiction, so it's been adapted from that. It is a slow burn, and I think what really makes this one stand out is its quirky writing style, and it has a lot of humor in this book. In August 4th, we have Adversary to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Marer. This is the fourth book in the Assistant to the Villain series, and this one is very similar to the previous one in its writing style, its comedic humor, being very witty. It's described as Once Upon a Time meets The Office. It is romantasy, but just also very lighthearted, very funny. We follow Evie, who's desperate for a job, and she ends up being hired as an assistant, which turns out to be working for this evil villain. And so people are plotting against the villain, and she's put in charge of finding out what's going on and stopping them. Along the way, she starts crushing on her boss, who is this evil villain. I believe this is the final book in the series, but I also think that this was originally planned to be a trilogy, and now this is the fourth book, so who knows. In November, on November 10th, we don't have a title yet, but the third book in the Fae and Alchemy series by Callie Hart. This is the series that starts with Quicksilver. Brimstone is the second one that just came out. I haven't read this series yet, but I've been seeing it everywhere. It is romantasy, and I'm just so intrigued. So many people have been talking about it. Lots of people have been rereading Quicksilver and posting about how much they love it. So it's really making me want to figure out what all the hype is about and finally start this series. Since this one is so far out, we don't have a cover yet, a title, or any sort of description of the book. Similarly, in December, on December 1st, we have the second book in the Evermore series by Julie Soto. No cover, description, or title for this one yet either, but this is the sequel to Rose in Chains, which was a 5-star read for me. That book just came out this year and I loved it. It's dark romantasy, enemies to lovers, and I believe it's set to be a trilogy. The ending had a big reveal, big cliffhanger, so I've really been looking forward to the next book's release ever since I finished reading the first one. I have one other book on my list that's a potential book to be released in 2026, but we don't have an exact date yet, and that is Red God by Pierce Brown. This is the 7th and final book in the Red Rising series. People are anticipating that it might come out in the summer of 2026 or maybe the end of the year, but there's been no official announcement yet. So fingers crossed that it comes out in 2026. If it doesn't, that's okay. What's most important is for Pierce Brown to take his time and finish up the series well. So I totally understand waiting, but it is such a good series. I've only read the first 2 books so far, but both were 5 stars for me. My husband has been reading the series too. I think he's on the 5th book, and all of them have been 5 stars for him. So such a good series. Very hopeful and excited for this last book to be released. But since it'll most likely be more towards the end of 2026, I should have plenty of time to catch up the rest of the way on the Red Rising series before it comes out. Those are all of the books that I'm most excited for. Let me know which books you're most excited for in the comments, or any other 2026 new releases that I missed. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.